And I grew up on the cusp of the change from metal poles to fiberglass poles. So I was a freshman in high school in 1965, and I jumped on metal pole all freshman year. I jumped 10 feet on a metal pole freshman year, and then we switched to glass sophomore year.
How did that happen? I mean, I know that there was a transition, from bamboo to steel to fiberglass, but how did that transition to fiberglass? Do you know like the background of how that happened? Like who was the first one to do it and things like that?
Herb Jenks, I think, was the inventor of fiberglass, and they were experimenting with it. And then our friend George Davies was the first guy to really jump really good on fiberglass.
So Herb Jenks built the first fiberglass pole?
Yep.
And where was that at?
That was in California. That Herb Jenks was the original catapult guy. Yeah, catapult. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then a couple other guys got into it. There was a lot of belly aching among people if the rules should allow the bending of poles and allow fiberglass.
Right.
All the guys that jumped high on steel and bamboo, they didn't like it. And of course, bamboo bent a little bit too if you had the right size.
Right.
So we saw a little bit of that. There were bamboo steel poles being jumped on my first couple of years in high school, actually. Yeah.
And do you know how they managed that? Did people just say, no, deal with it?
I think eventually the world record was changing so many times in the early mid 60s that I don't think there was any slowing it down.
Right.
It certainly changed the dynamic of the sport in many, many, many ways. You know, as you guys probably know, I've worked a lot on pole vault safety, and of course, a lot of that is about, the landing pits and all that type of stuff to make it safer. Mm-hmm. Because we went from landing on sand to landing on sawdust to the early fiberglass pits. The pit we jumped on at Bloom High School was basically a big box, a wagon, the size of a pole vault pit with foam chunks in it and no front buns.
With like hard edges?
Yep. Yeah, I got a couple. I got a good picture I can show you here in my phone if you want to look at it. I jumped 15 feet on that in high school. No front bun, just plywood sides all the way around, covered with canvas. No front buns, just straight up and down in the front.
And like how big was it? Like what could you miss? Could you hit the side and like snap in half?
I don't remember anybody ever missing the side, and there was no regulations for how big the pit needed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
no
crazy.
regulations for that.
Well, I mean, so when you introduce the fiberglass pole, I mean, it changes the whole safety profile of the sport.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that
Still
must
today,
have been like crazy.
All you have to do is look over there in that wall. That tells you a lot of the story.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
No doubt. And it's taken a long time since the mid 60s into the 70s, 80s, 90s for people to kind of figure out the resistance factor and going to a bigger pole when you're blowing through and all those type of things. Absolutely.